Oh, not sure. Yeah, I have to. Yeah. So do that little there. I'll walk down. That's what I see here. No, that's okay. What is it? Pizza. Is everyone from the garden or they're, it's different. Yeah, I mean, the black, I mean, that is some rock, but it's a royal one. I don't think they're gonna try to put in the current against it. So, oh, you know what, thank you. Right, thank you. Oh, oh, so, even meeting, right? Okay. Yeah, all right, thanks. That's, for my lawyer. Oh, yeah, I didn't know. Yeah. But this, you know, I've heard it, the more kind of,
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Today is Monday, November 20th, 2023. I'm calling to order the New Shoreham Board of License Commissioners meeting. It is 3:40 p.m. Item one is a continued public hearing for beverage license transfer and relocation. Do I have to reconvene the public hearing, or is it considered reconvened just by my assertion, Madam Clerk? Yeah, it was continued because it was continued. Great. So James and Dylan, would you like to report on your work and what you'd like us to do here, please?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Good to see you today. Dylan, I think, is on the Zoom as well. What we've come to discuss is that I think Mr. Conley and his client are seeking to amend their application to create a beverage license transfer at this point only. The relocation will be left off of this discussion. That way, Block Island Cookie Company, LLC, members Ruth McTeague and Kimberly Ward, Ocean Avenue, Plat 5, Lot 64-1, will be transferred to Garden Lot LLC, doing business at 1661 Farm and Gardens, member Rita Draper. The location will remain the same for the time being. And if they do seek to transfer it to Spring Street, Plat 7, Lot 33, they will come back to you at a later date to deal with any underlying issues related to that site.
I agree with that. The only thing I would add there is if the board was comfortable just continuing to a date certain, so we did not have to re-advertise and pay the re-advertisement fee, it would be appreciated.
Keisha, do you have the calendar in front of you?
I don't understand this at all. This is the first time I've heard it. How do we? Hold on. I thought liquor licenses had to be picked up by the 1st of December.
So the ownership would be, as I understand it, the ownership would be transferred, but the license would not be issued until that date certain, the approval on that date certain in January of the plan.
Yeah, I got that. I said I thought they had to be picked up by December 1st. Is that not true?
17.
I may be wrong.
If there are conditions that need to be met pursuant to the renewal or the transfer, the license would not be issued until those conditions are met, whether it's on December 1st or thereafter.
On the 3rd of February.
So this would be similar to the harbor side where we grant the license but don't issue the license until later?
Correct.
So the regular meeting
Not
is
exactly.
the 8th. There's a meeting on the 17th, and then there's a work session on the 3rd of January.
Would you mind saying that again, please, Keisha? I'm sorry, I was reading this. I apologize.
Work session on the 3rd of January, regular meeting on the 8th, and then on the 17th.
So would you guys like the 17th so you have enough time? That makes sense.
Yeah, more time is better. I agree, Mr. Chairman.
Without being bold, a little bit to Martha's comment, let's pick a day that everybody is very confident you can get all the land use stuff done, because we really don't want to kick this ball one more time. So is it better if the ball's being kicked, is it better to almost pick a date in February when you know you've got an extra 30 days to do it?
Yeah,
That's Dylan, I'm sorry to ask, but
Yeah, no, I don't have an objection to that. I think when you say the land use stuff, there is a little bit on our end when we're not quite certain exactly what the deliverable should be. So February sounds fine.
23rd, 21.
I am just for the record. You tell us how much time you need.
Right.
You know what I mean. Like I have no. I'm happy to do it tomorrow, but
It looks like we have regular meetings on January 8th and 17th and February 5th and 21st.
Right.
February 21 works for me.
February 21st.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Martha, you have good questions and I just
I-
don't want to skim. over.
Clearly, I'm not going to get any answers from them. I thought we were coming to act on this license. I do not think this is in any way, shape, or form analogous to the harbor side where there was a fire and there is a site. It's going to change. I think we all knew last year when we extended Bethany's without a site that it was a slippery slope, but we also had, at least I was quite sure it wasn't going to happen. That was an unusual circumstance as well. I don't think this is. I think this is I think this is a license that should have been dropped and reapplied for properly. And our attorney should be spending any more, I don't think the town of Shoreham should be spending any more time with its attorneys trying to make something work that should have come to us in order. And I know the Drapers have always run great businesses, but I just, this is a bridge too far for me.
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to respond?
Yes, please.
So it's my position that the application is in order. It's my position that
course
the
it
town
is.
asked for additional information, and we're happy to comply with the town's requests, which are above and beyond the legal standard for granting a relocation, but we have no objection to that. We're very happy to work with the town.
Molly, any questions?
No, but I just want to point out, I'm talking about it not being the same situation as the harbor side, just procedurally.
In terms of picking up the license, yes. So what we're going to do here, in a second, I'm going to make a motion to do the ownership transfer. Just correct me if I'm wrong, Keisha or James or Nick. Then we are going to continue item 2. Make a motion to continue that to February 21st. Am I correct with both those motions? I just want to make sure we don't screw something up here or mess something up, excuse me. Hello?
So I believe that if you're inclined to approve it, you do the approval of the transfer of ownership only,
Yes.
and then continue the location transfer.
Number 2.
Yes.
Yes, okay. I would make a motion to transfer ownership of class BVL liquor license from Block Island Cookie Company LLC to Garden Lot LLC, Rita Draper doing business as 1661 Farm and Gardens. Say that about I'm not going to say that about relocation.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
The ayes have it. I would make a motion to continue the public hearing for annual beverage license renewals for Garden Lot LLC doing business as 1661 Farm and Gardens, member Rita Draper, Spring Street, until February 21st,
2024.
2024. Yes.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
Ayes have it. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all very much.
Next item is to receive and act on a Class BV beverage license application from Shoreham Inc. Stockholder Stephen C. Filippi doing business as Ballards in Water Street.
And this is continued as well.
This is a continued matter as well. Is it?
That's why he's here.
Yeah.
The podium is in white.
Nick, you're on. Steve Filippi's here as well.
Sure. Good afternoon, guys.
Hi.
We've been back and forth on this one. As the board is aware, there were a number of conditions imposed last year. There was an inclination that certain members of the board wanted to do something similar this year. Your solicitors have worked with the applicant's attorney in crafting very similar conditions for this year that we memorialized in writing. I don't know if you folks have a copy in the room. Do you, Keith, or no?
I do not.
All right. It's probably cleanest if we have, and maybe Keisha could lend a hand if we were just to print a copy of the conditions and enter them into the record. That way we're all literally on the same page. I think James had sent a copy earlier today.
I haven't received it. If you could just resend that.
Sure.
I'll vote on it.
James, can you take care of that?
Sure.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks for.
Come on, guys. Happy Thanksgiving.
So while that's while that's being sent over to Keisha, if I can just summarize, the conditions include a prohibition on festivals that we saw a couple of years ago and led to some issues. Certain controls of maximum patrons, that those be governed by the fire marshal's office. Certain conditions on EMTs, emergency medical technicians, and their cooperation with the Block Island Medical Center. You'll recall last year we worked closely with the doctor on the island to assist him in how EMTs would communicate with him and transport patients. There's a number of conditions on security at the venue. We saw a good summer this summer. We want to see that continuing on. So there's some conditions there as to a director of security maintaining in place, visibility of security personnel if they're needed by patrons, certain thresholds or certain standards for training of those security officers, and coordination with our police chief in town so that there's a line of communication between our police department and that entity. Also, there's a condition as to dealing with trash coming off the property, probably more importantly, helping to ensure that open containers of alcohol don't leave the premises. And lastly, there was an issue in the past dealing with line formation leading to the front entrance of the property and backing up into the town dock. We've put certain measures in place to make sure that that's alleviated. So a number of conditions have been put in place. Again, many of these were in place last year. We saw self-admittedly success last year, and we want to see that continue into the future. So once you folks have a copy of that, my recommendation would be to accept that document into the record as to the conditions you'll place onto the liquor license, and then make a motion to approve that liquor license subject to those conditions.
Two things, Nick. One is, as I understand it, the most significant change here is giving Ballard's flexibility, because it appears that literally anybody hiring police officers needs it around the hiring of police officers next summer.
Yeah, the big flexibility, Keith, is the handling of security personnel. We had a condition last year that dealt with requiring police officers. We were never able to fill those positions. So a level of control is going over to Ballard's and their director of security, Tim Lee, who has a background in law enforcement and security, to ensure that they're appropriately staffed and the premises are under control. From what we understand and having communication with our own police department, Mr. Lee's done a good job in the past year.
And Paul, that makes sense to you? Yeah, sorry. Bill?
I was just gonna say, was the police department involved in part of these security measures?
I know that they were last year, and it's largely the renewal of this year's, but I, given what Paul just said, apparently not.
I just think that's unfortunate because, for instance, bottom line, I think
You're right.
going forward, it should definitely be included. So,
You're right, Bill. Yeah, absolutely. You're right. The second thing, is I know Brian LaPlante isn't on this call, but, I'll express it to Steve because I know he worked on it. I appreciate, the work that you did, Nick, the work that you did, Steve, the work that Brian did in good faith to figure this thing out. So thank you very much.
We'll convey that, Keith. I'll make sure that he gets that from you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the council? No. All right. So, Nick, I am going to make a motion, that, we would renew a Class BV license for Shoreham Inc. Is pursuant to to the agreement between Ballards and Town of New Shoreham sufficient for this, or do I have to adopt this document that's before us and then reference it when we make the motion?
I think the latter. I would accept the document into evidence because this is a public hearing.
Yeah.
We can call it Exhibit 1 and then make a motion to approve the license subject to the conditions outlined in Exhibit 1 and as agreed to by the parties.
Do I need a motion to accept this exhibit?
I would do that.
Can I have a motion to accept Exhibit 1?
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Just so we're clear, Steve, that was what we're talking about this, and same thing we all have. I just want to, no. And then I would make a motion, to renew a Class BV, license to Shoreham Inc. stockholder, Stephen C. Filippi, doing business as Ballards in Water Street, subject to the conditions agreed to by the Town of New Shoreham and Shoreham Inc. Contained in Exhibit 1 that was just adopted. A second?
There's a second for discussion.
Okay. Go ahead.
Paul, any thoughts? Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree.
We had fixed numbers that you had for the security teams last year. This does not outline any of those. It allows.
Excuse me, Paul, try to interrupt.
Yeah, would you just come to the,
Sorry, I forget we need the green light. Last year we had fixed numbers on certain days and certain times. And this year, under personnel assignments, it's, the director of security will schedule and assign ballot security personnel based on best practices given the time of the year. We had set numbers last year. This basically, allows them, he could say we only need 2, but there's no, I don't see anywhere in here where we have any say over yes or no. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because he could say we only need 2 on Saturday, and say you really need 8, and now you're locked into doing this. So I think the town should have some say when they're doing their schedule of what the numbers should be.
That was part of the earlier thing, right?
yeah, the last one
Last year.
did include this. Steve, you can go to either one.
So, if you look in Indeed, we want you to go over the plan, we'll have the outlines, the personnel and so forth. But this year, we just couldn't agree to a certain amount because it was like a constant fire drill last year. We said 7 or 8, someone didn't show up, someone got sick. It's just a huge burden that is kind of something that we didn't feel comfortable doing this year, and it's like, we're obviously gonna have the amount. And I think when the attorneys are talking, James, you can cut in, but we're gonna put the, you review the police chief review, right?
Right.
And you can comment and so forth, whatever, we're all gonna get it. And then number two, you could also, if there's any changes in the plan, then we have to let you know. So that's kind of like, I think we kind of met halfway to kind of make sure everyone's comfortable with it. But to say like you need 8 people and then only 6 show up, and then we lose our liquor license, that was something that we obviously couldn't agree to. We did it last year, we agreed for 1 year, before we obviously just gonna do it this year, So that's what this was, and this came out when we started this whole negotiation.
Can I, at great risk, Steve, don't go anywhere. Under F, Ballard's Director of Security will schedule and assign Ballard security personnel based on best practices. Can we put in consultation with NSPD, given the time of year, the day of the week?
Yeah, for approval. I don't know.
Is that better?
Yeah, we
Is
should,
that-
we should definitely have some input to it.
Right.
Yeah. Did you get that, Nick?
I did. I just couldn't hear Steve's input. If it's okay with Steve, it's of course okay with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just,
Yeah, absolutely. Again, the plan was in the police chief review.
Yeah.
We're gonna have
Yep.
a warm hug all summer.
Ballard's
Definitely,
Security will schedule
and definitely,
security
you know,
personnel
keep you
based on
abreast of
best
everything,
practices.
just like we did last year.
Yeah, and Keith, what we're hearing in our discussions, and not to speak for Steve, but in our conversation with his attorney, is that they want to work with the town. We saw that
Right.
This past summer. It appears that wants to continue. In my opinion, even though nobody asked for it, that's a good thing.
Mhm. So now it would say, just wordsmith with me, Martha, we're in F. Ballard's Director of Security will schedule and assign in consultation with NSPD, Ballard security personnel based on best practices, given the time of year, the day of week, the time of day, yada, yada.
Ballard's Director of Security in consultation with.
Is that where the best place to put it? Okay. We square? Okay, great. Yeah, okay. So Paul, thank you. And I do apologize. You're right. You know, you're right.
And James says.
Sometimes
he should got
the
this today
simplest
too, so.
answer is the best. The fact is correct.
And James and Nick, I think that's sort of a lesson for all of us going forward, like especially in liquor license type of relationships. Let's just make sure that the chief is included for review. So it's a huge oversight and done.
Okay, we're getting by it.
Yes? No, it was, thank you.
Thank you for bringing it up.
So,
Security plan.
yeah,
Tim's gonna meet with the police chief.
yep,
We're gonna go over everything, it's got staffing levels in it, everyone's gonna get together, go over everything, everyone's.
yes. Totally get that, Steve. Thank you.
Give me a big collaboration.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna amend my motion, that, to say that, section, 4, Ballard Security in Exhibit 1, letter F, personnel assignments will now say Ballard's Director of Security in consultation with the New Shoreham Police Department will schedule, etc.
I revised my second.
Any discussion? Not all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed,
Thank you,
no.
Paul. Thank you,
The ayes
Steve.
have it. Thank you, guys. That was really helpful.
And for all of the bravado, you can thank the plant.
All right, now we are on to continued public hearing for renewal of outdoor entertainment licenses. Nick?
I didn't bring any of that with me.
You skipped item.
What did I miss?
Yeah, just we're setting the cap.
The numbers.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Thank you. I totally missed that.
Numerical order.
Yes.
What happened to the BV? I already lost track of BVL. Who dropped out?
I don't, Bethany,
Bethany and, just Bethany.
just Bethany. All right, these, I will read,
Can I ask a question first?
please.
So Nick and James, and I know we discuss this every year, But we have to have, I'm just gonna pick the first one, which is license, class license C. The cap is 1, even though we're not issuing any. And that's all by state mandate. We can't do anything to eliminate those caps, can we?
Yes. Sorry, I'm not the lawyer, but I can answer. I wanted to ask this basically the same question. It's always been our understanding that under some case law somewhere, you have to grant one of each of these licenses. And prior to a date, I don't remember, I don't know if I was on the council or not, one of our past attorneys said we had to put one in every slot. Prior to that time, we only had one in the slot when somebody applied for it. And if somebody applied for it and everything was in order, it had to be granted. But I would ask, I think this goes, I was holding off because I think this goes to regulations later on. Do we have to, in fact, have that space filled? No. No, you didn't, because you didn't have the history on when it was changed.
James, do you have a thought on that? That's the first I've been asked on it.
Yeah, so the question is, for instance, in C, the cap is 1, the number issued is 0. Is that the question, Martha?
Well, no, actually, the question is, do we have to have a cap of 1 if we don't have anybody who's applied for it? And I understand in the regs, a reason for denying a license is there's no, I mean, that's always a cart and horse thing of when do you set the cap, before or after you have the hearing, because a reason for denial is there aren't any licenses available, but you can always open it up and allow more licenses to be granted. But as I said, it used to be only the ones that we had issued that were listed when we originally did the regulations back in '93. And then at some point along the way, we ended up adding I know I wasn't on the council. We ended up adding all these other ones. And I know what a J is, but that's probably just me. Do we need them? And I do know, and I bring this up every year, but there are other things that are more important. There are other towns that do not have C licenses, but that's by General Assembly. That's totally unrelated to this.
So the question, as I understand it, is, are we required under the state statute to make available at least one of every category of license?
I am not positive on that. I'm sorry. I don't know the answer to that, quite frankly.
Because we have a large number that are zeros. And I think this goes to what we discussed at 2 meetings ago when we started doing this, which is, I actually think we need a work session on these things. Like, for example, Molly did a lot of research work with DBR on the F1s. And if I were quizzed right now, I would get about 3 of these correct. If someone asked me, okay, what's a class E? I would not do a very good job on that. So I think making sure that on the one hand, we are technically compliant with state statute, but on the other hand, have a broader policy decision around availability and around frequency, for example, of getting F1 licenses, and whether we can have or should have standard conditions for the issuance of F1 licenses, et cetera. That seems to me a broader conversation that we need to have about these things. And
do we need a G?
right.
Keith, for today's purposes, and I'm just looking at the enabling legislation for a Class C license, I would suggest leaving the cap at 1. And the basis for my suggestion is that within the enabling legislation, only certain cities and towns, Coventry, Situate, South Kingstown, are authorized to prohibit Class C licenses. And my argument would be that by setting a cap of 0, it could be argued that you're prohibiting a Class C, which isn't authorized by the enabling legislation. Again, this was a first for myself and James, but just having seen this, my suggestion would be leave the cap at 1. And then when we take a deeper dive into our rules and regs, we can certainly address that again.
Terrific.
Yeah, why don't we just go to the assembly and get rid of that nonsense? But that's
I think
later.
Have the work session, that would be a great topic, because we've had this conversation multiple years, and let's just get this.
Yeah.
done.
Bill?
It might be worth checking with the parent to do a very restricted.
Oh, really? Thank you. That's great heads up. All right, so I'm going to make a motion to set the caps on liquor licenses for 2024. For Class A, 2. For Class BV, 25. For Class BVL, 2. For Class BM, 1. For Class C, 1. For Class D, 1. For Class E, 1. For Class F, 12 per business per year. For Class F1, 12 per business per year. Class T, 1. Class BH, 1. Class F2, 1. Class G, 1. Class GD, 1. Class J1, Class L1, Class K1, Class ED, 1.
Second.
There any questions?
I do have a question.
Yes.
So, we've said that we're gonna talk about the F and the F1 licenses in particular. Can we change this after that? Can we change this again, or is it like a once-a-year thing that we're?
Oh, that's a good question. Can we reestablish a cap? Say, let's say we decide after a March work session and the process that we don't want to give F1 licenses anymore, or we want the cap to be 1 per business per year. Do we have the ability at mid-year to change our cap or our policy around these particular licenses?
Yes, you can revisit that anytime.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Keisha, did I do that right? Hot dog. Yes, Bill.
And I'm not quite sure, I don't know the cap, I'm not right. Even with that, for a little, we've already set the cap for the year. And that's why they just stop people from coming in halfway through and say, oh, I'll ask you to just raise the cap. So I don't know why that always was, but
Yeah,
it just doesn't.
That's the cart and the horse thing that I referenced before, that we've gone just in the years, and a lot of years that I wasn't here, it went back and forth.
Right.
And we've set the cap at the beginning, held the hearings, then revisited the cap. I don't know what other places do. Other places seem to be as uncertain as we were.
Keisha, would you make a note that we want to include that as part of the work session conversation? Because I've wondered that for 3 years now, why we don't set the cap as the first thing, and then or whatever, set the cap. It just
We just need to
seems.
clean this up.
Well, I think the argument was that you had to give, if people got everything in order, you had to give them a hearing.
I see.
I think, as I
also-
recall, it might have changed.
Yeah.
In complementing Molly's questions a while ago, I think we've seen this year a couple of F1 license application or discussions of license. And I think now it's becoming seemingly of greater interest by parties that didn't have interest in it before. And I just think we definitely need to understand that well.
And the reason for that, just to explain,
No, I'm with you.
is that the state changed
Right.
F1s. So it used to be that you could only apply for an F1 if you were a nonprofit, or so it was always like a church or Rotary Club or Lions Club.
Now it's
But
anybody.
well,
At our
now
church.
they've expanded the F1 to include businesses. And yet it has a few more restrictions on it than what we realized this summer. So
And I'm gonna,
I'm just supporting this discussion.
yeah, and this is, sort of one of the many areas where we deal with this, but, this gets very personal. Like someone comes for an F1,
Yeah.
it's someone you like, it's someone who, does a really good job. And, without sort of, have you checked these 15 boxes or whatever it is, 6 boxes, 2 boxes? It becomes highly subjective, I think. And that's not a criticism of anybody who has an F1. It's just a fact of our lives, right? So the more we talk about it, the more we just establish reasonable and rational rules.
But I think it puts a big burden on the police department.
Yes,
I mean, just
yes.
for resource and time, so I just want to make sure.
right,
Yes.
and I would say, I don't think we made any mistakes on this and everything went fine. Everything went well, but given the further information that I have from DBR, I can't say that I would vote the same way.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
Everything
absolutely.
is fine, but we need to, sort of regulate it a
Yeah.
little differently.
So item 4 on our agenda is, what's that? Oh, I'm sorry, Bill. Sorry about that.
I wonder if the Attorney General's office puts out, an open meeting for us, guidance or, EBA, and like that, and for like.
It's a good question. And one of the things that occurred to me is maybe we should have the DBR liquor person zoom in when we're talking about this stuff, I mean.
Well, I think we need to look at our own regulations and see what dovetails, because when they were done, I think they were done Doug Michelle worked on them and he doesn't just make stuff up. But they may be out of whack by now. I don't know.
They may well be.
It was 93 was when they were first done.
Yeah.
To put Nick and James on the hot seat, the answer to many of my questions when I talked to DBR was, you have to talk to your lawyers about that. So he answered quite a few questions, but he was very specific that a lot of the more detailed questions are up to us and our lawyers.
It's our regulations, but
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've gone back, as I said before, we've gone back and forth on the cap on how it's done, and not only when it's done, but if there's 1 or if there's 0. I remember, I don't remember the year, but it used to be 0 because I didn't want these even out there.
Yes, Bill.
I was gonna say, Mom, but I guess you have the state laws and then the town ordinances.
Right.
Where it updates you up, that's probably where they say. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
They also honor our lawyers. They're not going to defend us.
Now we have the continued public hearing for the. Yes, we voted unanimously. Yes, I made the motion, Sven seconded, it was voted unanimously. Continued public hearing for renewal of outdoor entertainment licenses, Shoreham Inc. doing business as Ballard's and Nick. Do we have to do anything special here?
Not special, just the same that you did for liquor license. So my suggestion would be to accept that exhibit into the record, amend F as you amended it earlier to include in consultation with NSPD, and then make a motion to approve the outdoor entertainment license subject to that exhibit with the amendment.
Very well. I would make a motion to accept exhibit 1 into the record. Second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. And I would make a motion to amend small section 4F as we did before for the liquor permit. Ballard's Director of Security will Ballard's Director of Security insert in consultation with NSPD will schedule and assign blah blah blah.
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye. I would make a motion to, sorry, let me get my motions together here. I would make a motion to renew the outdoor entertainment license of Shoreham Inc. DBA Ballard's Inn, subject to the conditions contained in and agreed to by Ballard's Inn in the town of New Shoreham.
Second,
Did I get that right?
it's
You
not
looked out,
exhibit,
you looked do these.
is that exhibit one?
Yes, does it say?
You didn't say exhibit one, you want to reference that at all?
Oh, yes,
You just
pursuant
said-
to, pursuant to the conditions contained in, thank you, contained in exhibit one and agreed to by Ballard's Inn in the town of New Shoreham.
A
Thank
real
you, sir.
second then.
Are there any questions? Not all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Thank
you, Steve. Take care.
Thank you.
Paul, sorry about that.
Everything's good.
Thanks.